All right, welcome to Musically Meditated Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Riley, with my co-host, Sreten Jovanovic. What's up?
What's up, man?
This is a special edition episode. Like I said, 50 is a milestone for us. What you're about to hear was actually recorded in August of 2017, correct?
Yeah.
So it's been over a year, which is crazy. And why this is important is because it includes my late great friend, Ricky Pontney, that passed away, unfortunately, at the beginning of this year, 2018. And a little background, you've probably heard the story. Sreten and I, we bumped into each other. You made a comment about my hat, and then he started talking to me about meditation. And then from there, we got onto the podcast discussion, and you were excited because I actually knew what a podcast was.
Yeah.
And I was like, awesome. And you said, yeah, I have the bookstore next door, and you should come over. I have all the recording equipment.
Yeah.
And I was really excited because one of my goals that year in 2017 was to start a band or start a podcast. So I was really pumped up about that information. So I went back to Ricky, and Ricky was like the podcast guy. He has been, or was like for years.
Right.
So I told him, I was like, hey, I met this guy, Sreten. He has all the recording equipment. Let's start a podcast. So he's like, all right, let's do it. So we didn't know exactly what we wanted to talk about as far as a format or anything. But, you know, thankfully for bumping into you, you were pretty open-minded and you were willing just to have us come over and talk about whatever.
Yeah, I gave you guys the unfortunate, I kept calling you guys guinea pigs.
Basically.
And I was just looking for people that wanted to do podcasts. So it was, whatever anybody wanted to do. I was totally open to whatever somebody wanted to do. And we had talked about meditation a bunch. And the funny thing was, you guys both did, after this recording, you humored me and sat in the bookstore and we did that Wim Hof thing.
We did do the Wim Hof meditation.
So,
yes, we did.
So that was pretty cool. And we were strangers. We did not know each other.
Totally complete strangers. Yeah. So this was, like I said, Sreten was like, I have all the recording equipment. We lost touch for maybe a few weeks. So just on a dime, I called Ricky. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm free. I'm just chilling. I'm like, cool. I'm picking you up. We're recording a podcast. He's like, what? Like, so there was no, format. There was no idea of what we wanted to talk about. It was just basically hit record and let's have a conversation between, well, Ricky and I were friends, but you were a stranger,
right?
And you let us in. So like I said, I'm grateful of that and really appreciative. So I went and I picked Ricky up. We had no idea what we were going to talk about, and, we sat down for a couple hours, and we're going to share that with you here. But more importantly, as far as Musically Meditated goes, when Sreten recorded this, you made it only available for me, you, Ricky, and I think his mom listened to it. So those are the only 4 people that I know that listened to this entire recording. And the feedback from Audrey Pontney, his mother, was, I really liked when you talked about music, not so much the other topics.
Right.
So I always kept that in the back of my head, moving forward. So Ricky and I were going to start a podcast, and it was going to be called Let's All Be Rational.
Right. Yeah.
And
can't we all just be rational?
Yeah, can't we all just be rational? And we were just going to talk about all kinds of topics. But what happened was Ricky got a job on the West Coast, and he had to move. So I knew he couldn't be there.
Right.
And then you and I moving forward, we were still working with an idea of well, what do I want to talk about as a format? And then I remembered in the back of my head about what Mrs. Pontney said about the music discussion.
Right.
And then I remembered, well, hey, if Ricky were to ever come back, that would be great too. And he could be like an add-in or a fill-in.
Right.
And so then Musically Meditated was born, and that's where we started. And he did come back from that job or whatever from the West Coast, and I told him, I'm like, hey, I already started a podcast. And you and I were very, I don't know, I wouldn't say shy, but still we didn't put it out there yet.
Right.
Like on social media or anything.
Yeah.
And him being such a good friend that he was, I knew he would be honest and give me good feedback.
Yeah.
I was like, Ricky, check it out. And I think we already had like 5 episodes.
Yeah.
And they were only available on YouTube. And, he told me, he's like, well, I was going to, to be honest, I didn't really think it was going to be anything special. He's like, but it was really good. It was really informative.
On the website, he's one of the first comments.
He was our first comment on greendoor.com.
Yeah.
A lot of people weren't commenting at all, but he was a very, he was a first listener and an avid supporter. And, we were going to include him moving on as like a featured guest, a constant featured guest, almost
right.
probably like a co-host. Who knows, but from what he heard, he was just like, man, I got to get on there. I got to get on there. He's like, forget talking about politics or religion or anything. And then also like with the mindfulness, like you mentioned too, like we talk about a little bit of that in what you're about to listen to. And that was kind of like the musically meditated theme as well. We were going to incorporate a little bit more mindfulness.
It's something that we still, I hope that we will pursue, because it is it's something that both of us, you and I, Joe, try to be mindful of. And we're trying to work towards being more mindful, being more calm, not letting the world get to us so much. And whatever that means, whether that means hitting the gym, whether that means going for hikes, whether that means meditating.
Because I'm always closing out now with meditate on this. So there's a little bit of something,
right?
And we were thinking about maybe doing some, meditation audio, like 9-minute meditation.
Yeah, and we hope to still do that. Yeah,
right.
But it was when I first met the both of you guys, Ricky was he was a well of information on the meditative side and mindfulness and different things that people have tried and experimentation and. Buddhist stuff, and Sam. He was a huge fan of Sam Harris.
Yeah, both Ricky and I. When you listen to this too, he was the one that introduced me to Sam Harris, and it helped me out through a really hard time in my life. And Ricky, he gives me some crap. He's like, "Well, you're religious, so how can you be into it?" But it's funny re-listening to this. It did show Ricky's, just kind of his ornery side. Like he knew how to jab a little, and he was trying to do it with the atheist versus religion conversation, which you'll hear a little bit of that, but we're trying to focus more on like the mindfulness on this conversation and the music talk, which is a pretty decent amount. But to everyone listening, like this was the first time I had ever recorded anything like this podcast related, and same with Ricky and somewhat yourself. I mean, you did it before, right, Sreten?
I did it before numerous times, but it never gained traction. So I had a podcast before that got we had recorded 22 episodes, and then one after that, actually in tandem with that was about 6. Okay. That was, believe it or not, about sports. Now that we know each other for a year, you probably say to yourself, how did you talk about sports?
Right.
But I did. Like, we had one. So but it was me talking with 2 strangers. And when I did record, it was always under a very, very, I mean, it still is, but under a very controlled environment with a really good friend of mine. And this was 2 strange, like, to me, you guys were 2 strangers. And we just came in and just knocked it out. We just talked.
Mm-hmm.
We had a really, really good conversation.
Yeah, it was.
I did not know what to expect.
Yeah.
And neither did you guys.
No, we didn't. And we hit some really touchy subjects, and for all of us to just keep our cool and be respectful, that says a lot too, like especially for you and I in our relationship moving forward, because like we learned each other and got to know each other through a podcast. We didn't know each other before this. And with Ricky musically, he was a huge influence on me, and we would talk music all the time, a majority of the time. We would talk religion and politics and stuff too, but he would always be introducing me to something newer, more indie rock within the last like 10 years. Like his musical tastes were changing and evolving, like all of us, as we get older. But, we definitely connected a lot more when we were younger. And I'm appreciative of, the certain things that he did turn me on to, 5 or 10 years ago that I kind of like, pushed away. But now I go back and revisit. Like that is some really good stuff, like Elliott Smith.
Yeah.
Bright Eyes, Chevelle, so on and so forth. He had a really, really good taste and knack for music. He was a huge Tool fan, big Deftones fan. He would be really, really mad with Tool. I thought we had more of a Tool conversation, I could have swore, but re-listening to this, we didn't. So I don't know if that was just another conversation. But what's really special is being able to capture someone's voice like this that has passed away, that that meant a lot to me and to a lot of listeners that are listening to this, because, like a picture can capture a moment, but a voice, like to
the nuance of
his jokes or his laugh that's on here, like that's something a lot of people don't even really think about until they lose someone. So for us to be able to capture this, this on recording in time and space, like it's really, really special. And I did receive the blessing from his mother to release this, Audrey Pontney, and same with Shannon and Megan Pontney, his sisters, and I'm thrilled that they were, supportive and willing to let us release this to everyone. So this really isn't about Musically Meditated. It's about him and what he was or who he was as a person. As far as friendship goes to me, and who he was as an uncle or a son or a brother. That a lot of us really miss. So. Yeah, so everybody please enjoy this episode and share it, and that's all I got to say. Rest in peace, Ricky.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Musically Meditated.
Musically Meditated. Musically Meditated.
I am recording now.
Okay.
So we're on.
All right.
So we'll do like 60 minutes.
Let's do it.
And I'll give it to you guys.
Righteous.
So, yeah, I'm Sreten.
Sreten. I'm James Joseph Riley.
I'm Ricky Pontney.
This is the first test recording of the podcast to be determined.
To be determined.
So,
There you go.
This is awesome.
I don't know which one you guys
Glad to
want.
be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
This is very exciting for me. I don't know which one of you guys want to start first. I want to know a little bit about you. Like, I want to know, wherever you want to start. You want to start, let me tell you about my life from last week, and that's it. Or if you want to go back farther, or for me, for example, I like everything. I'm like a chicken with my head cut off with the interests that I have. I am master of none. What's that phrase?
Jack of all
Jack
trades.
of all
master
trades,
of
Yeah,
none.
master,
I'm not good at. I'm not even a jack of all trades. Like I'm okay at a lot of things, but I'm not awesome at anything. I'm not terribly good at everything.
Well, I'm reasonably. I consider myself really good at reading people right away.
Yeah.
There was a book I read by Malcolm Gladwell called Blink. Basically, half the book was dedicated to thin slicing information, and in this other PhD, John Gottman, who's like the leading relationship psychiatrist in the world, like he can do amazing things. He actually, not to get off subject too much, but he can go in a restaurant and in 15 minutes, he's able to tell within like a 90%, 80 or 90% radius just by watching a couple, not hearing anything they're saying, just straight body reactions.
Language,
Saying within like they'll be gone in 6 months. They've been married 15 years. They'll stay married forever.
Oh, he could break it down like that?
Yes.
Is that
Amazing.
what's thin
But
slicing mean?
Thin slicing information is basically
So like getting a lot of information out of a little bit of information.
exactly.
Like
It's okay.
inferring
So
accurately.
I've known you. This is, you know what I mean. Like as soon as we met, one of the first things I could tell is
This guy likes honey buns.
He's intelligent. No,
He likes churros.
Yeah.
you know what I did the other day?
From the small amount that I know about you, you guys both like music a lot. All kinds of music, right?
It's life. Music is life.
When somebody around you, because I hear this statement a lot when I hear people talk about music,
Okay.
is they will talk about something, and then somebody, like if it's a group of 4 or 5 people, somebody will always go, I just don't think there's any good music anymore.
Nah,
like
that's
they'll give a
bullshit.
certain year that the music was like,
Nah.
yeah, after 71, there's nothing good after that. And I was like, are you crazy?
I disagree.
Like I disagree too. I think there's just an insane amount of music of all genres, genre mixing. There's stuff that only sounds good live, stuff that just like usual, stuff that only sounds good in a studio. I think it's an amazing time, not only because there's amazing music coming out like every new second,
But it's at your fingertips.
but it's but all the old stuff. Like you have the catalog
There's all
of
kinds of old shit.
everything.
Yeah, I'm
You can
always
listen to
finding old shit I've never
Dude,
heard.
everything you just said is 100% correct.
It is.
You couldn't have said it better.
No, he did say it perfect.
Perfect.
Good. Then
Perfect.
we can talk about music.
And what's good, in relation to what you were saying, I was talking to a friend at work about this, and I was showing him different rock, like I could tell he likes rock, like he's definitely like a 90s, he likes 90s grunge, okay? So I'm at work, we have downtime.
Like Nirvana.
Yeah,
Okay.
Alice in Chains, Nirvana, Soundgarden,
James, blah blah blah.
yada yada. So I can kind of like feed on what he likes. So I got Spotify on and I'm putting on different tracks. And he made a point. He's like, you know what? Chicagoland area, there's not a radio station anymore that just plays rock and roll. And there's not a radio station that just tries to promote straight up rock, because if you put on Q101, it's all this indie garbage. It's garbage. I want a rock station, you know, and the indie stuff's cool if that's your thing, but Chicago is lacking a straight up rock radio.
There was one very good, the best rock station out of Chicago is 93.1 XRT.
I like 93.1, but I'm saying just like straight up rock and roll. Like rock, like
there are. I mean, I said I collect
oldies station started bringing that in.
I know, yeah, they got Nirvana
but
on there.
I mean, 93.1
Making
had,
me feel old.
had, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
They had the Shins do a live concert.
But that's not rock and roll. It's not.
No, but they'll go from that to what do you want, Queen?
So
something with distorted guitar.
Okay, they'll go from that to.
So when you say rock, do you mean like classic rock?
No, I mean I guess what I'm getting at is if you search enough and you dig deep, there are a lot of bands that you probably haven't heard of that might fit that dynamic of a 90s grunge or just a rock band.
Yeah.
You know, but I think what the radio is scared of is when dudes start screaming. Mm-hmm. But that's a really big part of rock and roll nowadays.
How many like?
I mean, especially for the last 20 years, like let's get over it. Like who's really that offended about screaming on the microphone?
How did punk music not make a bigger influence than in Chicago as it did on the East Coast in England? Why did it kind of stop?
What do you mean?
In
like
the
Chicago
in
punk
the 80s, punk was like the real deal.
Naked Reagan was the biggest punk band in Chicago.
I know G.G. Allen and all that was like way bizarre, but
no, there was
Minor Threat.
Minor Threat's the best. Man,
they're great.
I love Minor Threat. I like their whole message too.
Because you got to school me on that. I don't know any.
Well, you know, like if I ever have children, you know, and they're at that like teenage.
No, tell them about Minor Threat.
Minor Threat. That's where I'm going at with this.
Oh, okay.
If they're a teenager, Minor Threat's a straight edge band, and they promote abstinence, no drug use, no alcohol, and no religion.
But you can't tell because their shit's heavy,
and it's angry. But at any rate, I'd be like, hey, check out Minor Threat. Like it's aggressive, it's good music, and they're promoting a really healthy way to live your life.
Yeah,
you know, Minor Threat. You know, I didn't like them when I was a child, but as an adult, like the music, like whatever the scene is or the message, it is what it is. But
I like the scene
the music,
though, because it was kind of like, especially in Europe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was
they're
a lot of anti-government.
They're from
in
DC.
England. That's where it started, right?
England, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the Clash, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so
it was anti-establishment.
The psychedelic movement came from England. With Pink Floyd coming over in 65,
the Beatles,
66.
I mean, you know.
Yeah, the Stones.
Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin. I mean, we can go on and on for hours.
So if you had an all-star...
The Smiths, I mean...
If you had 5 all-star bands collaborated, and it was like USA versus England, they would fuck us up.
Yeah, England would destroy us. Yeah, back in the day.
Back in the day. I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm just saying of all time.
Yeah, England.
Tom York, Radiohead.
Yeah, I mean, England's got it. I mean, we could even go not rock and roll, but Aphex Twin. You know, he's English, he's British. Electronic music.
I got to bring some music experts in here.
We are the music experts.
I
need 2 other guys. That way, maybe.
We'll bring in other dudes with different genres.
Yeah,
that disagree with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, but let's. So how much are those pants at Target? I'm gonna have to tell my mom. You know,
20 or $30.
You might have to get yours hemmed, homie.
Huh?
Might have to get them hemmed.
What are you saying?
I don't know. You kind of flood sometimes, but it's cool.
I do flood a little bit.
A little bit, because your legs are too long. You got them long limbs. Here's a story, and music related and everything. And the first time I met him, I was hanging out with one of my friends. His name's Ryan Slicker. He's a great dude. And
shout out to Ryan Slicker.
Yeah, shout out to Ryan Slicker for sure.
Go Boone Grove.
And he didn't like it because he was like, "That's my buddy." I could just feel his body language. Like, that's my buddy. Stay away from my buddy. What grade is this? Probably 7th grade. So yeah. Ricky was standing in the corner. Like Ryan took me to one of his family parties, and then like Ricky was there or something, and he was standing in the corner with a Walkman, and he was bumping Mac 10.
Was I?
Yeah. I don't know why I remember this, but I'm like, hey, what's up? And you're like, hey.
I knew you were an Eazy-E guy.
Yeah, I loved Eazy-E and NWA. I'm like, what do you listen to? You're like, Mac 10. I'm like, I don't really like him. He's with Cube. You're like, well, you're missing out, man. Like, you were very, like, he was just in his own, I don't know, lane. And
I have an excellent memory, and I don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
I remember the party
because it was a Walkman, and like you weren't being.
Are you still as passionate about hip hop, like new hip hop?
I am.
Yeah, but I listen to a lot of indie rock.
We call him indie rock Rick on the streets.
I think you and
Sounds right.
James.
Yeah. Well, that's on the streets, you know. Look.
So
It's
all right.
based on a true story. Yeah.
So we won't get into what other things that I'm into. What I want to ask is what kind of what. So we'll ignore that. So obviously you guys are into music.
Love it. Let's stick with the hip hop, no?
We can, whatever.
No, there's better things to talk about than hip hop right now.
You bike ride occasionally.
Because I don't drive.
Okay.
If I had a car,
you know what? This city
go
we're in,
near that bike.
this place is like awesome for bike riding. Everybody's
That's
bike riding
true.
all the time.
I love to bike ride.
I haven't seen this many people bike
I
ride.
got away from it this summer just because I've worked a lot of overtime and I'm doing some things with my life. Just put my house up for sale, yada yada. But I would hit up the bike trails a lot, like spring, summer, fall, like. And my gauntlet is going to Porter and back, you know, and I'll go to what is it? What's that bar's name? The Village Tap.
Yeah.
And that's where we'll go, and we'll drink a couple pitchers, eat some cheese cubes, and then everything, you know, like if it's supposed to be a healthy thing, like we just destroy it at the destination, and then you come back, you know. But it's 25 miles. He did that one today because I know where his buddy lives, and it's in Porter. But I love the bike trails. I really like doing it.
I also take my bike to see my doctor sometimes. That's all the way out in Calumet Avenue in Munster from Hobart. If you don't know, those listening, it's like 2-hour bike ride.
Tell them how it
because
is.
you gotta hop like
Is it really
4 different
2 hours?
trails. It's 4 different trails, and if you're not paying attention, you can end up in like Sauk Village, Illinois. You know what I mean? So pay attention.
But I think what you're saying, Hobart is a good place to ride your bike. Absolutely,
They do have bike lanes. They have bike lanes. I use them.
Yeah,
on
there's
Old
one
Ridge
on
Road.
10th Street now too.
Old Ridge Road by my house.
I was surprised to see that. You know,
Right.
I'm kind of sketched out on that because someone could just sideswipe you. You know,
You got to be careful.
got to be
sure.
really careful.
Actually, the people on the bike need to be more careful.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
Yeah.
that's common sense.
How about you? Do you like to bike?
I haven't been on a bicycle in years.
And you
But
need to do that.
the other guy that's here at the bookstore with me, he
I got a Trek. I love Treks.
he bought a bike for him, his fiance, and then the dude that did like the construction in here.
Right.
He convinced him to go get a bike, so he got one bike, and then he got him and his wife a bike. So now I'm like, I gotta get a bike.
Get a bike.
I watched a great documentary piece about this British kid and his, up until they started studying him, he memorized, true story, memorized pi. Pi is 3.1416. He memorized pi 25,000 numbers after 3.14.
Why?
And it took him 5.5 hours to do it.
Well, he memorized
thought,
it in 5.5 hours.
Yes, he gave 100% correct. There were like 10 different judges that were making sure he didn't make one mistake.
How old was he? Do you remember, like age group?
Like early 20s. Okay, but what I'm getting to is
Your body language is closed right now. But go ahead. We were talking body language earlier.
Your arms are crossed. Does this kid intimidate you?
Do I intimidate you right
Does
now?
this story?
No, I'm just a little chilly actually.
Chilly.
Yeah. I guess sometimes when you overthink and overanalyze, you separate your body from your mind.
And get cold.
Apparently.
Sorry, I got into the bike riding things. Like what other stuff?
Yeah, what other stuff are you into?
Like music. I know it's actually a kind of a silly answer, but I'm just trying to talk about more things.
Yeah, let's do this.
So it's like movies. You go to the theater. Do you have a watering hole you like going to, like a place to get beers? How often you get to listen to live music? Do you write?
Oh, this is on me.
Yeah,
It's on whoever wants to answer. I don't care.
I actually have a couple published poems. They're not very good though.
He's a great writer, though. Ricky has always been a great writer. I've read his poetry. I've read a lot of his stuff throughout the years. He's very, very, very articulate.
Kind of disagree.
No, I think he's good. I do.
Good for like what it is. Not
Maybe
like,
I just
good.
You seem to be like, so you take in a lot of online content as far as like philosophy stuff, documentaries, anything that's you like that stuff. You've already mentioned a couple.
Oh, I love
philosophers and people I've never heard
I
of.
can go on all
Like
day about
my knowledge like gets whatever's mainstream pretty much, like that people mention, like philosophers. After that, I don't know.
Yeah,
Dude, he'll talk forever about that. I mean, and I'm not saying anything bad, but you could just. Ricky knows. He's talk philosophy
for a
I
while.
love philosophy. I love metaphysics.
Are you into meditation the way you're into meditation?
Actually, I was maybe or deeper.
Probably.
I mean, yeah.
Probably.
And,
Because he was talking about it way before I was even like.
I started meditating in 2000. It was 2012.
Do you still?
Yeah.
I had Malabi's and everything. No, I don't. No.
I started
That's the one thing that
15.
Sam Harris and I disagree with.
I love Sam
respect the
Harris.
heck out of it, and I know it does wonders. It's scientifically proven. They can trace it all the way down to the neurotransmitters and the way just the after effects or whatever. But no, I don't do it, and I should. Maybe.
What does Sam Harris say, and what is it that you disagree with?
No, I disagree. I agree with he's my intellectual hero, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, me too. I love him. He turned me on to him. Ricky did. I mean, he would say you would drop his name.
How are you still a Christian though?
Oh, here we go. I don't know. I don't really buy into all of his.
You don't have to. I don't think you can. You can be a fan of someone and not agree. I actually think it's important.
Sam Harris is.
Yeah, how can you agree with anybody?
Sam
100%.
Harris is
If you're an intelligent, this is what I think.
Okay.
If you're an intelligent person and another person is an intelligent person, there's absolutely no way that you guys. I mean, it's just I say things that are obvious all the time. So this is one of my obvious things. You're not going to agree on 100% of the things. So you might think Sam Harris is amazing and be okay with the fact that he's like an atheist.
I'm picking up his meditation routine. He just taught me how to meditate, and he really helped me out during a hard time. So I love him for that, and I will listen to everything he has to say. Even if it's an atheist approach or agenda, because that's what he's about. But I take it with a grain of salt. You know what I'm saying? And that's it. But he taught me how to meditate. Mm-hmm. And he taught me how to meditate during a time where my life was upside down. And with his meditation, man, like that 9-minute thing, it saved my life. It really did. And that sounds pretty extreme, maybe cliche, but it did.
No,
because I was going.
You're not an extreme.
Yeah, because I was going through so much, and I had so much clutter in my brain. I mean, I was dealing with.
Excuse me, what? Okay, what was the chaos going on?
Okay.
What time frame are we talking here?
From 13 to 15, like I started listening to him in probably 14, like later part of 14, but with his meditation, that was early part of 2015. So my grandpa Whitaker died in 13.
Okay.
My best friend, who was my brother, died in October of 14.
Mm-hmm.
And then I filed for divorce in December of 14.
It's like the trifecta.
Yeah, so there was a lot of shit going on.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of shit on my plate.
Right.
So there was a lot of clutter, in my brain.
Right.
And I was really I was out there, and I was just trying to find a way to turn off my brain and just chill. So
right.
With his 9-minute meditation, you told me the other night.
I've been doing it
but it put you to sleep. And that's kind of what I think when I started to meditate, and where I might be messing up, like where I've messed up maybe now, is I was doing it to turn my brain off to go to sleep. You know what I'm saying? And that's when I started fucking with Sam Harris, because I couldn't turn it. I mean, doing shift work or whatnot, it really messes everything up. But then you tack on all that stress.
Wait, go ahead. Do you mean the shift work messes up the meditation, or the meditation messes up your shift
Shift work messes up sleep.
Oh, just everything.
Everything.
Sleep.
Just a lot of things.
Right. Okay. I got you.
When I started to listen to him in that 9-minute meditation, and it was on his podcast, because
Waking Up
podcast, and it was the very first thing, if you subscribe to it on your phone or whatever,
mm-hmm.
It was the very first thing. I'd always have to scroll all the way down to when he started his podcast, and he started it with a 9-minute meditation.
Right.
And I would actually do it at work, which sounds kind of crazy, but when shit was really crazy, everything, there was just a lot going on, and I had a 15-minute break, I would put that on audio, and it would just chill me out. I mean,
that's awesome.
I had my attorney call me about my divorce. I had my ex-wife, just whatever. And then I had my best friend's, who passed away's mother.
You know when it was most effective for me, Joe?
Go ahead.
I'm going to tell you. I don't know if I've ever told you this.
Okay.
I meditated hardcore in prison.
Okay.
I went to Zen Buddhist. I
Yeah, you've
read
told me a little
all
bit.
the lit, most definitely. Like I made sure I was on, because we got to leave once a week to go meet our the practicers or whatever, and they practice at a certain, like it was a certain Japanese Buddhist thing. I didn't quite they had the chants and
Right.
some bells, and it was just like trying to feel and.
But what are you getting at though? Like, how did it help you?
No, that's where I did
When
it the
you-
most.
Oh, in prison.
Yeah.
Okay.
In like 6 months after.
How often? Daily?
I meditated 3 20-minute sessions a day.
Really?
Yeah. No, except on Wednesdays I would do 2 1-hour sessions.
Here's an interesting thing.
I've actually hallucinated.
I have
meditating.
once too. I've hallucinated once.
Your first time's pretty intense. When you say?
Wait till I show you the Wim Hof thing.
You did show me. That's really good stuff.
Have you heard of Ram Dass?
Let him tell you
I think
about
it's
Wim.
similar. I don't.
Is it a
I-
breathing
I- We'll
thing?
talk
Familiar with
about
Ram
about
Dass?
that off mic, just because
Okay.
I'm really fucking annoying about it. So I don't want to even get into it. It's better if we just when we're done.
Why? What's wrong with?
Yeah,
I'm just.
we're
It's,
all
it's all
annoying.
I've been talking about for
It's all
months
good.
now.
It's
But
all
we
good.
could sit here on the couch and knock it out in like 20 minutes after we record.
Are you
And then
guys
let me
familiar
know.
with Ram Dass?
No.
No.
Let me
Richard
say
Alpert?
no.
No, I'm not.
No.
Okay, obviously you're familiar with Timothy Leary.
Yeah, of course.
Do you guys
I'm
know?
not.
Do you guys know the story?
With Timothy Leary?
Yeah.
What do you mean the story?
Tell the story.
With the acid?
Yeah.
I'm not. Tell
Yeah,
the
tell
story.
him. Tell it again.
Okay.
With acid,
I
when I
think-
say acid, LSD. Yeah.
Well, you had the Merry Pranksters. Have you ever read the book or heard the book by Jack Kerouac called The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test?
Yeah, but I don't
Yeah.
know anything about it.
Okay. Well, that's a true story. Some rich hippies in the Haight-Ashbury district where the Dead started in San Francisco, it was like Ken Kesey and some other guys, they rented a bus and took it all the way to New York because Timothy Leary was like the LSD man, right? So they wanted to meet him, and when they got there, he's like, no, I'm not. They called it, he's like, partying, it's really tripping. He's like, I'm not partying with you guys because I party with a bunch of intellectuals. Well, he was kind of snooty. They took it real snooty. They drove
Right.
all the way out from Frisco. He dosed his they weren't his 101 psych students. Timothy Leary was giving out doctorates at Harvard. Okay? He was messing with people that were very Freudian or very Jungian, very intelligent people that went to college for 16 years.
When he dosed him, did they know?
Hell yes. They
Okay,
signed
okay.
consent and
Okay,
everything,
cool,
and they
cool.
were completely safe in his huge mansion in upstate New York.
That's
They
where
would
he
do
was
it on a
at.
weekend, yeah.
Okay.
Anyhow, but a girl,
Ladies. Lovely
she had a
ladies.
bad trip, tells her parents, they're like, we're spending, even back
I
then.
remember this now. Yeah,
We
you were
were
just telling
spending
me
all
about
this
it.
money, so he's like, screw it, I'll go to Cal Berkeley. Way more liberal, right? And he wrote a lot of things in great, I forget his, something with the egocentric system, like he expanded Freud's like ego system thing and developed a new chart for it, and it was like I might have won a Nobel Prize, I don't know, but he didn't give any credit to where, like, when you watch documentaries now, where a lot of credit was due. So there's a lot of like old 90, he would have been 90 now or 80 something.
Maybe he stole some shit, right?
No,
And didn't give people credit.
No.
Oh, what
There
are
was
you
like
saying?
3 other guys that their names aren't even in the book. They're like, dude, I was with him every day for 16
Oh,
hours.
that's important.
For
Yeah.
5 years.
Right.
And
right.
I pointed this out and this out. And if it wasn't for me, he wouldn't have even wrote those books.
Right. Okay.
I don't know why I went off on that tangent. But no, Ram Dass was his best friend. He also got fired at Harvard. In the great story, his name was Richard Alpert. He says, you know what, whatever. I got it. I have enough money. I don't like have kids, or I don't know what the situation was. But he was able to take off to India, and all he did was meditate.
Okay.
Now
Let's
he's
get back to this
very
meditation
spiritual.
talk. Is
Yes, this is back to the meditation.
Okay.
He brought a ton of the best chemically made LSD you can get your hands on.
So
in
they
the
would meditate.
1960s.
They would meditate on LSD.
He saw a guy under a tree sitting lotus position, tough, right?
Yeah,
You
right.
know, you're
Yoga,
a little skinny
yeah.
Indian who drinks a bowl of milk,
Some wheatgrass. Some
barely
cashews.
straight vegan.
A lot of cashews.
Yeah.
With no peanut oil.
He
Some oil.
Ram Dass gives
Just a
him
touch?
like a large amount,
Of what?
large amount
Of acid?
And the guy takes it. He comes back to the guy the next day. The guy says, that was fine, but it's nothing compared to meditation. Ram Dass is like, no, this doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
There's no way.
Right.
So Ram Dass is like, all right. He gave him like way more. Ram Dass came back and said, now you can't tell me that wasn't more effective than meditating. He's like, no, that was nice. I enjoyed it. But what I get from meditating is far more than that.
Really?
And that blew my mind. I read that in a book.
Okay.
It's called Zen Physics by David Darling.
Cool.
The Science of Death, the Logic of Reincarnation.
Okay.
Yeah. Very
Sam
good
Harris
book
has a lot of good things about death too.
that we don't know about it.
No, that we don't know about it, but how to like accept it, like how to accept death.
Timothy Leary was really good on that in his past 10 years.
Okay.
He basically knew he was dying. I mean, he had cancer,
Yeah, we
So
all
he
lose
was
loved ones like that.
Yeah, but he went out riding and
Here's the thing, though. Like with my grandpa, he passed away. Grandpa Riley, rest in power. James Roland Riley, he passed away in October of 16. And I started to do the meditation thing for a while. And I started to talk. I talked to him about it for a little bit. And then I sent him YouTube tutorials, like audio tutorials. And I sent him Sam Harris. But there's another guy, I think his name's Mike Seeley, and there's this one that's specifically targeted for not to overthink and don't be anxious, like about anything, because my grandfather shared with me, is like when you're going through chemo, and you're struggling to live and you're taking all this garbage in your body, that's one thing. But he told me, he's like, I was never prepared for the mental fuck, you know what I mean? Like what's going on upstairs. He's like, that's a lot to deal with. Because
how do you?
Well, a lot of people are tough against physical pain,
and he's tough. He was the
Right.
toughest,
but
dude.
it's the other stuff.
So here's
way heavier.
When he said that to me, I go,
for sure.
I have 2 audio tutorials I'm going to give to you, and I'm like, go to your bedroom, turn off all the lights. Like, gave him headphones or whatever. And the Michael Seeley one, he liked more, and that's the one that I hallucinated off of. Actually, it was like stop overanalyzing and anxiety type things, and it's about an hour long. And I gave that to him, or sent him the link and like set him up or whatever, and he loved it. And I feel really good about that, because he, like, his feedback after that, he's like, you know what, like, I wish that someone would have showed me that when I was your age, like in your 30s, because it really clears the clutter, I mean, and he was basically dying. You know what I'm saying? So if he could unplug the computer.
That's a pretty intense story, man.
Yeah. So if he can unplug the computer, you know what I mean, and then plug it back in,
Right.
that's what it's all about. And I think that's what meditation is all about. I've read things too, like people look at meditation right now, like it still to this day, like it might be kind of hippie, it could be like a hippie thing. But in 30 to 40 years, but no, listen, into 30 and 40
Maybe
years,
bolder.
everyone's going to be able, like, everyone's going to put meditation in their daily practice, because it's so important for your brain.
So is yoga. You know how
Yoga's great, yeah.
people make
Vinyasa
fun of
flow.
yoga all the time, a long time ago. Dude, it is so good for you. If you meditate and do yoga, you are gonna live longer.
And the ladies are going to love you.
You know that.
Ladies.
It's very ironic.
It's so ironic.
It's Alanis Morissette to the T.
Isn't it ironic, Rick? Don't you think?
Yeah.
Like rain. Come on, guys. No.
You know the words.
Oh, we know the
dude,
words,
my
man.
sister had that.
We grew up in the
CD.
90s.
Yeah, my sister had my 38.
Jagged Little Pill. My mom used to jam Jagged Little Pill when I was like in 6th grade.
By the way, his mom plays the drums, and she's pretty
really
freaking
good.
Yeah.
She's good.
That's weird.
Donna Riley
Jazz
on the drums. No, she's rock and roll drums.
She could probably do some jazz.
I could do some jazz.
She could play. Yeah, you're good.
Donna.
Where did
What do you
get
call
it
the
from?
drumstick that it looks like just
the
a
little
bunch of
tassels?
Shh. Yeah.
Real quick, I
Yeah.
want to know. Just say 2 words, because it's going to be 2 words for each one of you. Who's your favorite stand-up comedian of all time? Name one. I'll go first. Bill Hicks.
Okay, hold on. Let me think.
Mine's specific only because I had a specific time with him.
Hit
It's
it,
not
hit it.
Andrew Dice Clay is my guy.
Have you guys ever seen stand-up comedians debate?
I
a
loved
little bit, not debate, but put on like say Bill Burr was like kind of anti-gun or pro-gun, but he was like, you know, making fun of it. Bill Burr's hilarious.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And then there was like an Australian. I want to say he was Australian.
Yeah, he's Australian. I can't remember his name right now. He has a show.
Yeah, he's pretty.
He had
popular.
a show on Netflix.
You know what I'm talking
One or
about?
two seasons.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember his name right now. He had a great one.
They both made sense.
Right.
I got some for you guys.
Right.
Ever heard of the stand-up comedian named Mitch Hedberg?
Yeah, he's awesome.
No.
He would have been. He's in my top 5.
He's
How long has he been around? For a while?
I don't know. He died.
He died of an
He died of a
overdose.
heroin overdose.
Oh,
Yeah.
bummer.
But he was a Canadian. He was fun. He pulled off the shades on stage with the long hair. He pulled it off. Like no one else can get away with that except for like him and now probably Kevin Hart or something, you know. But I mean, he was a white dude and he was just fucking hilarious. But one of my favorite jokes by him is he's like, man, a guy was selling frozen bananas and he asked me if I wanted one. And I said, yeah, because I want a banana for later. Just shit like that, just one after another one-liners. Have you ever heard that one? Or no?
Yeah. He says it differently. I don't remember. It's funny. It's funny.
Is
Yeah,
it different than that?
a little. I can't remember how he says it. He says like, "Yeah, I want a banana later," something like that.
But he buys it though.
Did he buy it?
Yeah, he's got a lot of like. There's
30 minutes of one-liners.
There's
Really?
another guy
Oh, yeah.
that sounded like him that's older. He's what's the movie with Dave Chappelle where they smoke weed the whole time?
Jim Brewer.
Jim Brewer, Dave Chappelle.
yeah,
No, the couch guy.
Yeah, the couch guy.
He's funny as hell.
what's that guy?
Why can't we think of that movie? I've watched that movie a million times. When I was
The guy
a
on the
kid.
couch.
The guy on the couch.
What's his
I
name?
forget it, but
His real name? Yeah, he's got. Remember he was on.
He's got a really it's just always.
Remember he was doing the radio and Reservoir Dogs and shit.
Yeah.
Remember him?
Oh, I don't remember that part.
Yeah.
But he
KBT.
kind of had that same Wright. His last name Wright. I think his last name's Wright.
I'm not
I
sure.
can't remember.
Stephen Wright.
Okay.
But he was like the first Mitch Hedberg. He just knocks out one-liners like puns and
Yeah,
whatever. And Hedberg
I've
always
watched his
said-
stand up. Yeah,
Hedberg-
he's good.
You should listen. Hedberg's awesome.
Hedberg, I'll check him out.
Hedberg. Yeah, Mitch Hedberg's shit.
Speaking of comedians, and on a lighter note, you guys like Patrice O'Neill, right? Patrice O'Neill.
Yes, of course.
And I really love his one line. He goes, "Pussy doesn't age like wine; it ages like bread."
He's hilarious.
It's just like, goddamn, man. Like he didn't hold back, and it's just,
Or
it's the truth.
I like even on Joe Rogan stand up, he's like, you know what you never find when you're looking for Bigfoot? Black people.
Patrice
like
was the
his-
shit.
he says you find the most unfuckable white dudes in the United States looking for Bigfoot.
Right. You do. You do.
I like his stand-up too.
Who, Patrice?
I never listened to Patrice's.
Oh, you have to, man.
funny.
He's the best. He's the best. I love him a lot. But yeah, this was a good time.
Yeah, I had a
Yeah.
great time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop it
All right.
and then
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace be the journey.
I'm musically meditated.
that's right.
I'm musically meditated. That's right. I'm musically meditated.
Producer my ass over there.